Good evening, and
Hello.
welcome to the last day of August, August 31st,
Mhm.
Town Center and Library Committee meeting. We have,
Dave, we got Dave in person again. Wow.
do we have public comment that you want to, no?
No.
Did you get what you needed, Mary?
I did. Thank you very much.
And
I appreciate it. Thank you, Josh, again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Fran is on as well. I don't know.
Yeah, does she want to comment?
Sure. Fran, I assume that's Fran Thomas. Is that Fran Thomas?
Could be the other Fran in town.
Could be. Or Fran Pomerantz.
Oh, then there's three.
It is
Okay.
Fran Thomas.
Okay, there we
Okay.
go. Okay,
It's for the
did you have any comment, Fran, or did you just want to sit in?
Dave and I are just sitting in.
Okay,
well,
thank you.
Feel free to jump into the conversation if you have
Okay.
something
If
you
you
want to
know
say.
me, I probably will.
Yeah, I've never known you to be shy or bashful. The only addition or deletion we have to the agenda is we discussed not having the architect come to this particular meeting. Last meeting was eventful.
Surprising.
Mary asked this question in an email to us. And I wanted to make clear that last week was the first time we saw numbers. So we have not, tonight will be the first chance we get to really discuss some of these numbers in more depth.
Yeah.
I will say, I think that this committee from its inception to now, it's been really faithful to its charge. We were asked to envision what it would take to bring a town center building, wherever it may be, into the 21st century. We have done a lot of work since then, and I think that part of our next charge will be to communicate to the residents in town what we have learned. I think that's the next step. We have learned a lot over the 4 years that this committee has been formed, and we need to communicate that and see how they feel about it. That's where I'm at right now, anyways. We can discuss some of these numbers in more depth. I think that these numbers inevitably will change some, with our discussion over time. The other thing that we decided quite definitively within minutes after we got these numbers that November was too soon.
Yeah.
And this will take some time to communicate to the public. So we felt that town meeting is a more appropriate time anyways. It'll actually be a big turnout because it will potentially.
The Republican.
The primary years.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, the Democrats will have a primary too, but regardless, there'll be somebody,
Yeah.
Ralph Nader or whoever, Bobby. Yeah, Bobby, right.
Joe Manchin was talking about running against him. I know, that's, you never know.
You never know.
It'll be nothing if not exciting.
Yeah, it'll be exciting.
Yeah.
I'm surprised if you like Bobby Kennedy, you didn't go to his event when he was here in South Burlington. I did.
It was around.
Yeah, he was.
Well, he's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
He'll make it exciting. I don't know. I mean, what's your feeling? Should we talk about numbers or should we focus on what do we say? What do we tell the select board?
For what Andrew's responses to the questions. I thought they were pretty clear. I don't know.
We should post that.
Yeah,
We should post that on our website.
yeah,
I think that we will get there,
okay.
Your frequently asked question document was really a good starting point, I thought.
Great.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll, Andrew wanted to know if I wanted him to respond to that. And I
No,
said, no, it's
not
gonna
yet.
change a lot, I'm sure, before we actually.
But I think it's
for the public.
I think it's a really good starting point, and I think we ought to keep track of questions.
Yeah.
What do we think are going to be most common
Yeah, yeah.
questions?
Because I think there's one question in there that isn't answered very well about the changes in the front of the library,
Uh-huh.
which might be a question.
Yeah,
Needs to be added.
definitely.
or subtracted, who knows where we go with that.
I
but-
think we probably should just keep track,
Yeah.
throughout these meetings. We now have, with town meeting, we now have 6 months. So that takes a little bit of the pressure off us.
Well, not really, because we have 2 months.
October, November, December.
We have, when does
January.
the ballot have to be approved, Josh? January?
Yeah, in January.
So presumably, whatever it is that we're
4
gonna
months.
present, we're gonna have,
Right.
and then we have 6 months to present all
Right,
of
but
that
we
to
have
the.
to know the number by January.
So
Yeah.
the proposal was malleable at this point. But I think that we don't have to wait.
No, I
don't
don't
know.
think we should either.
We've got
I
enough
was
information.
thinking if we went out with that FAQ and some information, to start taking the temperature of what people are interested in.
Well, let's start with the
or-
select
yeah,
board. So
Yeah.
select board is next Tuesday.
Yeah.
We don't meet on Monday because it's
Yeah.
Labor Day.
yeah.
So what's your thinking on what we should be presenting to the select board? It's time. They need to be updated.
Mm,
So I actually had a question, Jeff, with like you, I feel like we've learned a lot. I feel like we've been faithful to our directive, our charge. I think we've had a great process. I think we've
mhm.
come to the proper conclusions that in the design, we would have a really nice building in the right place. And I personally feel like that's what stuff costs.
Mhm.
I think it would be, so I feel like it's a fiscally responsible project. I also feel like it's environmentally responsible project. So I think those are all good things. I do have real questions about whether there's either the ability to pay or B, the willingness to pay for a project of this size at this time. And so, happy to bat that about. But is our charge to report out to the public, or is it to report back to the select board? And like, and ask them if they want us to take it public? Because as I reflect on this, one of my feelings is that I don't feel like, as a committee member anyway, that I would want to go out and try to sell this to somebody or fellow citizens without the support of the select board, at least on the level that they would like us to do that.
I like that.
Mhm.
I think that's a good point, Dave.
Yeah. And
Because we can't make any decisions as select board. We are not we're not,
And I don't, as a member of the select board, Jeff, I don't know what you feel about that, whether the select board is just gonna,
Well, I think it's premature to make a decision. Any decision,
Right.
from either us or the select board.
Yeah.
I think we have a responsibility really, to let the public know what we've learned. We've learned a lot about the building and a lot about its deficiencies. And we've learned what it will take to correct those deficiencies.
I do think that Dave's point is that it would be nice to have the select board say, yes, we're okay with you going out
Sure.
and doing some presentations, and we understand that, and, if they look at it and say, there's no way we're even gonna support doing a bond for this amount of money, then we
Mhm.
know we have work to do in another direction.
Well, that would be a disappointment.
Well, it would be, but
So how I would change the characterization that you made, David, is I don't think it's incumbent on us to sell this.
Yeah.
I think it's incumbent on us to inform the voters what we have learned. And there's no way we can know whether the voters have the appetite. There's no way that the select board can know. The number is surprising. I think You know, I certainly have been reflecting on it over the past week. As you, Dave, I understand where these numbers are coming from.
Yeah.
I understand the climate, the construction climate, you know, in many respects, you know, we can probably trim a little off of this one way or the other. But no matter what we do, you know, $8, $9, $10 million is a lot of money. And it's going to have a significant impact. One of the things that's always impressed me about this town is past generations have invested a significant amount of money and effort in the community. I mean, you know, think of how few people lived in town when they built the round church, or you know, it's even fewer that built the Universalist Church or now the library. Those folks felt a connection to the town deep enough that they were willing to invest in something that would be a legacy project. You know, I think our charge and how we felt about this going into this is one way or another, this was going to be a legacy project. You know, if we were to build a new building or to make this building new, it would be something not just for us, but for future generations. And we thought of it that way from the beginning. We were charged to do that, and charged to think about not just today or 10 years from now, but think about it in 50 or 100 years from now. And this building needs it. I mean, it needs it, you know. It's
To Linda and about having to go trip the breaker every so often, because
so I would argue that
mentioned different things.
how we could go about doing, you know, our public outreach would be not as, you know, selling that this is what we recommend that you do, you know, this is what we recommend that the town do, but more ask, this is where we're at, this is what we came up with, what do you think? Do you have the appetite, you know, to,
I think
it, you know, it comes down to about $25 a month, you know, for a $300,000 house.
I think somebody's gonna have to sell it. I don't agree that, I think if you go out and say, here's what we think, if there's no recommendation, there's gonna be a no vote. I don't know, Mary's over here with her hand up.
Oh.
Yeah, very cool. When you said $21 a month, is that per taxpayer or voter?
For average house. So for the average house value in Richmond, it's likely around $300,000 now. And it's about,
That means nothing. Is it the
So-
taxpayer or voter?
it applies to property taxes, and how it'll affect folks is through their property taxes. So for what we have, at least the preliminary numbers, and we should probably get these a little bit more official, but our preliminary numbers is a project of this scale would add about $100 a year per $100,000 worth of valuation for.
So any voter in this town that does not owe real estate or does not pay property taxes can vote on this for everybody that owns real estate and pays real estate taxes.
That is correct.
That's all I needed. It's every voter. Thank you.
The voters vote on it, but only the people who pay
Yeah,
taxes
yeah.
are gonna be paying it.
I'm pretty clear on that part.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah,
Thank you.
So,
yeah, I don't.
Hmm?
That, my opinion is if nobody is out there making a recommendation
Well-
backed by the select board.
I would suggest that it might be premature for a recommendation.
Well, I don't think now, but I think when we go out to asking people to support the bond vote, we're gonna be asking people, somebody's gonna be asking people to support the bond vote. And doing some kind of a promotional campaign around that.
Well, it's whether it's so this is a, you know, there are two directions here.
Yeah.
There's a fork in the road.
Yeah.
And we should take it, as Yogi would say. So
Jeff, we could report out on our findings in a written report that goes to the select board and that gets buried like government reports all over this country.
Mhm.
Or or the select board, we could go and report out to them over 1 or 2 or 3 meetings, whatever it is, so that they understand it. And they say, this is important to the town now. And we want you to conduct public informational
Right.
meetings on this.
Right.
I think we could do the public informational meetings. I think the select board would be challenged to do that. We're gonna go into budget season. soon.
I don't expect them to do it, but
No, but
But
they would make a direction that the committee is now going to be doing the public meeting.
And I'll tell you from my experience on the school board, which in many ways is different than the select board, but in this way, it could be similar, is we got a lot of pushback from folks on when we presented either a bond vote or even the budget as a recommendation. You know, it's not our decision. It's not our decision. It's not the select board's decision on whether or not we move forward with this. It's the voters. And I'm uncertain. Personally, I'm uncertain, you know, I would hate to put this up if we went out on, you know, a roadshow, listening tour, and it was resounding, no way, Jose. You know, no
That
way
might
do
be
I
a
want you to do
reason
that.
to do them sooner rather than later.
That I would argue that we should,
Yeah.
you know, and that we should, you know, we could make them as part of our regular meetings and invite specific, you know, groups or people to come in. But the way to present it, at least in these early days, is these are the problems.
Yeah,
This is the charge we gave to the architect.
mhm.
They put a lot of work into this. This was a lot of work. I was very impressed with the amount of work that went into this to come up with these numbers. You know, I doubt that we're gonna be able to, if we do all of this, it won't change much, you know, in cost.
Mhm.
And it's gonna be really difficult to say we should do this and not that. Like you know, the example that I've been thinking about is if you completely do the heating and ventilating system, which to me is a very high priority, you know, try to
Mhm.
redo the heating and ventilating system in this building, which is atrocious,
Mhm.
no fresh air whatsoever. You can't do that without doing the windows, and you can't
Right.
do the windows without doing that.
Right.
And if you tear out all of this stuff
Might
in
as
order
well
to
do
do
the
that,
plumbing and the
you might as
electrical.
well do the plumbing and the electrical, because
Yeah.
it'll be a lot less expensive to do it then.
Then
And then,
come back and re-tear it out.
you know, the rest of it is, you know, moving walls around.
Yeah, and
You know,
that's
and
the
floor
minor
finishing.
part of the,
So, you know, and, you know, maybe, you know, I think one of the more attractive parts of this whole project is the site work.
Yeah.
I
well,
think
I
it's
said
really,
to my husband, we could maybe do it without the site work. And he said, but that's gonna make the biggest
it will,
impact
It will.
when you see the building. And the biggest impact for people using the handicap parking spaces that get moved to much more reasonable places and much more safe places than where they are now.
and the stormwater.
Some of the site work
management
has to be done,
and
doesn't it?
flood-
Because of
Well,
flood mitigation.
That
Well-
back corner has to be done behind the post office.
Or we do nothing.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
and,
Yeah,
and we do nothing, you know, for one, I think we'll lose staff.
Well, that's, you know, when we toured with Anthony at the police station,
Mhm.
he said one of the reasons he thinks he keeps people is that the working conditions are nice. It's a nice office space,
Mhm.
unlike here. Not to mention that here doesn't actually, there's some legal problems with it, because you're not supposed to be able to see the patrolman's computers from the entry space. That
But,
goes
you know,
to
I would be
the-
loath to ask the select board to make a decision on
No,
Tuesday.
I don't, no, I don't.
Most
think-
any
no.
decision, you know,
I
what
don't-
I would, what I would prefer to propose to them is that, you know, is explain where we are and what we've got, and that it's out there. It's $10 million. You know, it's a lot of money. I think it surprised the committee.
It wouldn't have, yeah,
But,
it
you
would
know-
have really surprised me when the committee was formed. I think in 2019, when we started,
It would
we
have been
had
a
a
lot less.
whole different number in our heads.
And it would have been a lot
And
less
it
back
would
then.
have been a whole different number in 2019 than it is now.
But, you know, there's reasons why it is what it is.
Yeah.
And what I would recommend to the select board is to allow us to do a listening tour.
Okay.
Allow us to put what we've learned out,
Mhm.
with the goal of getting feedback.
Yep.
You know, getting response. What do you think? And then hopefully, I think we should put something up for a vote at town meeting.
Yes.
Whether it's this or something else, I think we should put something up for a vote at town meeting. And that's the definitive answer.
So thinking out loud here for a second, and then I had another kind of a question. If we went to the select board and we said, we feel like we should take this information we've gathered to the community, do you support that?
Mhm.
I think they would, but yeah.
And they probably would, but maybe that's the way. I just want
Mhm.
at some level, the
Yes.
select board to say, this is what we think you should, the committee's done what you were asked to do. We think this is your next step.
Yes,
Right, and they could say on Tuesday, we don't want to decide that until we look at the numbers more too. That's fine. I know you guys are
think it's-
overwhelmed.
no, I think it's fair to say that
won't care.
no, they'll care. I think it's fair to say that, it's not uncommon for the select board to defer a decision,
Right,
right? You know, I mean,
yes,
until you
Having
have
said that,
all of the information, you know, defer a decision. And the piece of information that we do not have is what the public response is. Right? We all have, you know, a knee-jerk response to it, but
Yeah.
we don't have what the
Yeah.
public response is yet.
So my question, and like I see this professionally with nonprofits that I work with that are building, there's two sides to the equation, right? There's what it costs and there's also where the money's coming from.
Yep.
And so as a taxpayer, I think it's fair to ask, is there other ways to pay for this? And I don't have the answer to those questions, but you hear about community block grants and you hear about, this is a significant investment for a community of this size. Again, I think it's a fiscally responsible proposal, and I think it's the right thing to do on a lot of levels. But it's
Yeah.
still
a lot of
a
money.
legacy project. It's a big chunk of change, however you want to term it.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
should a single small locality like Richmond be carrying these costs these days? I mean, it's different than everybody throwing in, a week's worth of labor to build the round church, or, it's just a different time and maybe a different
yeah,
scale. And that's, I would hope that there would be other sources of support. And I do think that there's some grants out there. I think there's, some private fundraising that we can potentially do, and et cetera, et cetera.
yeah,
But, I wonder what the state and the federal government, and I know that we've knocked on the federal government's door a couple of times.
yeah.
But I wonder whether the select board would say, there's a way to make this work financially for us. And maybe they don't have any answers
I
to.
doubt that they will.
No.
I
I mean, there are.
wonder, I wonder, and this is, I think it's something that we should put on our to-do list, is when do you apply for a grant? Do you apply for a grant before you have a bond vote or after?
Most
you-
of them want you to apply before,
Okay, and,
or at
And
least
do
we
you
should
bond-
talk to them about applying before the bond vote.
yes, and do you bond for the entire amount? And then, back it off with potential grant
Yeah,
sources?
Burlington bonded with the last grants. They had applied for a bunch of money. They also did a huge private fundraising campaign. I mean, they had business sponsors for all sorts of things in their new town center building. But I think the bond was praised like
Why don't we make that,
minus any grants that.
Why don't we make that as an agenda item?
Yeah.
You
I
know,
can look into how that, they
Great.
and Waterbury both got some grants. I can look at how they worded their bond votes.
Yeah, the bond votes are usually worded minus any other money that might come
Yeah.
in. And I don't have the specific wording, but our attorney always includes that.
Yeah.
I did check with Rebecca, the library, because that $160,000, I think, the library, the new handicap thing and some stuff around the library and even the parking lot. So there's those two. There's still $26.4 million worth of grants that are going to libraries
oh, yeah,
eventually
Yeah.
at some point. And it's still said, they still say they're gonna be issuing the grant application in the fall.
that would be one source for a portion of
Right,
this
that
that
was-
are
and then
supplied to the library.
He talked about compiling all of this building accessibility stuff.
Yeah.
And applying for a grant, but again, that, I think the max on the accessibility grants is 100,000.
So we
They're
should
not
just,
big pots of money, but they're little pots of money that could whack off parts of this. But there's no $1 million grant out there that I know of.
if we have to put on the bond vote, you know,
Yeah.
$10 million, or, you know, I think we
Whatever
can get it
number.
down to 9, you know, if we put on it for $9 million minus grants and, you know, other funding sources.
Yep.
People are still gonna see $9 million.
Oh, yes, they
I
are.
don't know emotionally whether that'll make a difference to them
No,
or not.
I don't think so. I don't think people understand. A lot of people might not even understand what that means or what
Well,
kind of a number we're talking about.
a lot of people pay for infrastructure improvements in town when Richmond's share is 1/3 of the overall. You
Yeah.
know, whether,
Yeah,
and,
yeah, like sidewalks, things that the state is gonna pick up most of the money
Right.
and we're paying for 20% or something.
right,
Yeah, I know.
you know,
There's a lot of that. Project.
So, you know, I think that would be a question we could ask.
Okay.
You know, how would you, you know, ask, you know, what I would like to do with these, you know, I don't know, I'm thinking of them in terms of listening sessions rather than asking sessions or selling sessions is, this is what we've learned. What do you think? You know,
This is the.
Mary, you have been not bashful about
This is the
letting
proposal.
us know what you think.
This is what's on the table, basically. This is what we've come to as a cost for the project, and this is what the project would be, and then Andrew and
we'd also
John are
need,
coming to
obviously,
the
to
select
be able
board.
to, sorry. We'd also obviously be able to need to be able to show what it would look like.
Well, and they were gonna have all that stuff for Andrew and John were gonna have pretty pictures and then elevation and stuff for the meeting,
Yeah, you know,
for the select board meeting.
you know, we might be able to send. We could ask Andrew tomorrow to put up, you know, to make boards. You know,
And they
that's
said they were
possible.
planning, so at the last,
I don't know if we need him for this, you know, I mean, you know,
I don't know.
Not necessarily for the
Yeah.
select board,
Yeah.
but for the public.
But
For
we
public,
also need some, I think the boards or something we can put up on here. Just to show them.
Well, we have,
They have it and
we have plenty of information,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
the challenge would be to whittle it down so that's digestible.
And do you want the FAQ or is it too soon for that?
I think it's a little too soon for that.
Okay.
All
Right?
You know, I don't necessarily think we ought to be doing a half-hour presentation on Tuesday for the select board for this.
But I think John and Andrew still assume they're gonna be there because we told them they were gonna be there.
You know, we
They
can,
were gonna do the
so we should
presentation.
talk about that. So,
Yeah.
my feeling is that this is a time to pause. And, you get the select board up to date as to where we're at. You know, we can give them all that stuff, they would hate it.
Don't give them the numbers file.
You know, maybe the summary
Give
page,
them
you know, the
yeah, the
summary number
summary
should,
file.
summary, you know, the number page,
Yeah.
you know, the pretty pictures. You know, and the elevation.
They've seen the
We could do-
picture, but they haven't, they probably don't remember it.
I think we have an elevation, and, the
I
elevation,
don't think we do. That was one of the things they were gonna make
we should
for it.
ask Andrew for that.
Yeah,
I think he's got something that's close.
and just in the minutes from the 22nd, maybe this one. Which itemizes at least the big ticket.
He just did that.
He did that?
Yeah, he did that. That's what that is.
No, that's not. No, these are the additional things. These are additional costs. What? Yeah, but that does not
But-
include these things.
With all of the costs are in here. This is $10 million. That's how you get there. He just sent a new one today. I don't know if you got that one.
Yeah, but he didn't itemize that 7 million up here at the top. In the same way that here it is here.
Yeah, so that's same. Which is fine. We could do that. And we should, so they understand,
Yeah.
what
The
is $10
basic
million.
things, yeah.
And let them digest that.
Yeah.
But I think.
Yep.
I'm not sure we need to do the whole dog and pony show for them. For one, it could, in order to do it effectively, it needs more than 15 minutes. And I think what would be more useful to them is, okay, we've done this 5 times. Whatever. And we've met with the trustees, we've met with the Historical Society, we've met with whatever group we can. And it would be good to, as an agenda item, to brainstorm who we should bring in. I think we could do it as part of our regular meetings and ask specific people to come to us rather than go to them.
Wait, we're kind of going in circles
No,
here.
no.
Let's talk about the select board first and sort of get our ducks in order for that one.
Yeah.
Because that's the first one that's coming. So
Yeah.
before we talk about like gathering
Mhm.
groups that we need to reach out to and
Yeah.
to present some information to, what do you feel like is important to say to the select board? Either on Tuesday or if we're gonna punt for 2 weeks, right? Like, what does the select board need to know right now?
They need to know $10 million.
Okay.
They
And-
absolutely need
And
to know
a
that.
Basic breakdown of how those costs.
They need to know,
Yeah.
what, and it would be good for us to have a
Mhm.
a bullet list of what the deficiencies are.
Yep.
Like
So
what-
this is the
Yeah,
cost estimate that the architects and everybody has worked
Yeah.
on. These are the breakdown of the different costs that we've been presented with right now. And we
Yeah.
want you to, and as a result, we're thinking now that we're not gonna try to have a bond vote in November.
Yeah.
We would definitely think we need to take
Move
more
to
time.
March, yeah.
We want to move to at least March, if not, after
Mhm.
that. And we have made, no decisions, no recommendations. We haven't said, yes, great, go ahead to any of this. It's just, this is the information that we have right now.
I
Okay.
think that's probably enough to get the conversation
And
going.
Right.
tell them that our plan is that we want to do some listening to community members. Does that make sense for our next
Yes,
step? And then have a
Yep.
say.
Would
Yeah.
that be okay for us to
Yep.
do
Yeah.
public outreach with the information that we have gathered to date?
That makes sense.
And then come back to them,
What's the result from that?
we would hope to be able to come back to them by December with a bond vote. Language.
Probably Going back to them before that. I
Or-
think.
I would say, like,
Yeah.
we go back to them in December with,
and report
here's a
that.
report of the information that we
Report of-
gathered and what
And as a
the community has told us.
Yeah,
And then after that, think about,
well,
But
remember the
language.
bond test.
right, but whether that's, we'll come back to you at the end of November, or we'll come back to you in mid-December, that it might be
Yeah.
2 separate meetings.
Yeah, I think that, yes, I think that is what I've been thinking,
Yeah.
is that they need to know.
Yep. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
They need to know about November, they need to know the number,
Mhm.
they need to know what our plan is for getting, public input.
And then all the documents can be up on our website.
Yes, I think they
as
should.
well for people if they want to look. How much in detail are we doing on the website? I would not put that whole itemized cost.
I don't know. Mary, do you think that was useful to you? Did you have a chance to look at it all?
I did everything but the pictures.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's gonna be helpful to more than just me. People who actually consume numbers,
Yeah,
will be able to see and, find out where this goes, where that goes. And I almost think that it's almost lofty. And to expect that this can be done for $10,183,000 and $98. Because of the time. Prices are gonna go up.
Yeah.
You put this out to bid and expect to get back,
Mhm.
or is that what the architects suggest? I mean, is that
They-
there?
They're-
It hasn't gone out to bid.
No, they actually put in an inflation adder. The
We
nu-
put in 7.5% inflation,
Well, and there was a 20% something or other in there
a
too.
15% contingency, which you always put in, and then a 7.5% just for inflation for the
Well,
period.
I'm not talking about inflation as Bidenomics has given it to us. I'm talking about the real cost of what it's going to be. You don't know if it, I'll just use a 2x4. You don't know if a 2x4 is gonna be $2.50 or if it's gonna be $7 in 1 year.
Right.
So I just think it's lofty, but, be prepared for that.
Yeah,
There's al-
And I just find it, inconceivable to say, okay, this is what it's going to be. $10,183,098, and that's what it's good, that's hard and fast, and that's not subtracting anything out, it's just, this is what has been.
Yeah.
Given.
Yeah.
And for them to put it out to bid and say, here's our projection, all you bidders, and they're gonna go, you're nuts. Or some version of it.
It is the process that is gone through for public buildings.
Sure.
The process would, and what we followed was to do the investigation, to hire the engineers and architects to come up with the design, including the site work and whatnot.
Mhm.
And go back and forth, yes, no, maybe, at one point we had a 4,000 square foot building on the plan that we eliminated. It's not
oh,
necessary.
addition.
in addition. And they whittle it down, and then once they whittle it down, then they give it a professional construction estimator that has
Mhm.
experience coming up, and they need all of those categories in order to come up. They need to know how
Okay,
much.
so
it's
the
worth.
estimator is the one who zoned in on these specific numbers.
That's
Yes.
correct,
and yeah,
that's their
there's,
job.
there's always a difference between what an architect or engineer's estimate would be and what the construction manager or GC would come up with. So they purposefully hired an estimator
Mhm.
to.
We asked them
help
to
with
do
this.
that.
Yeah.
Estimator, excavator,
So-
just a syllable here and there.
So it should be.
Yeah,
And you're right, we don't
best-
know.
It's best we have to go on.
Oh, yeah, I understand that,
it's
but,
someone
but
that, Yeah.
the dollar value, 10183,098. When you present that to the select board or to the public, it's it's like, how could you be so exact? We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, the bond would probably be, I don't think
10.2.
they do it by that, it'll be rounded
Hmm.
at some point, yeah.
It could be, I mean, that was the way they came up with the numbers. We'll probably pick away at it a little bit and say, well, could you use the existing doors rather than new doors or something, and
Yeah.
Coming back to the select board,
Thank you.
in presenting to them, we either in writing or in our back pocket need to be able to tell the story that we've experienced and that Lori captured so well in really the narrative that in your FAQ document, there's the narrative there.
I tried to do it step by step, yes.
Exactly. Did we?
Did we look at this?
Yeah.
Did we look at that? Yes,
Fran had a comment.
Fran? Is there?
Okay, first of all, Dave and I, we feel we're a little bit late to the game. Karen Yagi has been trying to keep me posted relative to the Historical Society on what the Historical Society might end up with, but I think we're both approaching this as residents of the town.
Yep.
Longtime residents, longtime taxpayers, both very involved in the town. So we just would have these comments. First of all, and we realize we are, have not been following closely. We both have too many other volunteer jobs that take a lot of our time.
Yeah.
on the numbers, you really, before you start talking numbers to the town, you really need to understand the numbers yourself and really critique them. So that if somebody has a question, you can answer those questions. You need to know whether there are any options on any of this that has been presented to you. That's what I'm, when you have someone, you're going to do a renovation on your home, you have someone come, or 2 or 3 people maybe, give you estimates, and you go over that, or we do, go over that estimate, critique it and say, well, this is a little too expensive, we can't do that, can we do it another way? We try and come up with what we think we can afford, but also solves whatever issue or whatever we're trying to do. Another number I think you need to know and present to people is, what about a new building? I know the town has pretty much decided a long time ago to preserve this and the old Universalist church. But you are going to ask, with a number so high, what would it cost to build, to start from scratch, either at the present site or somewhere else. When these thoughts are not necessarily in any, special order. When going out for vote, you should be in favor of whatever you are presenting to the voters. If you as a committee are not in favor of it, then you should not be presenting it to the voters. A long time ago, the select board, when they were proposing actually to build a new building with money from the fire fund, they never went out they never took a position one way or the other, and that doomed that project. But when we did vote on keeping the Universalist Church as a library and moving town offices to the town center and the post office, everything was laid out as to how we were going to pay for that, and how the rent of the post office was going to go to help maintain the building. That was all laid out for us as voters as to how it was going to be paid for and what impact it might be on their taxes. And you may say, Jeff, that the average house in Richmond is $300,000, and whatever you said would be the monthly fee. Well, the average house these days is probably not $300,000, and the tax burden is going to be a lot more than that. And a lot of people in Richmond now are retirees, Dave and I included, and our income doesn't go up every year. Even though I feel we need to be doing something to the town center, we need to be really cognizant on what effect it's going to have on the taxpayers whose income are not rising at the same percentage that our taxes are going up. We do not have a lot of businesses in town that take some of the burden off the taxpayers, and we never will. We never will have a lot more than what we have. So the town, if you go for a vote at some point, we really need to know specifics as to how it's going to be paid. Now, I don't know from the historical point of view, I don't know whether there are any grants that the Historical Society can apply for, but that is something you should be asking us, the Historical Society. Are there any grants that you can apply for that would help improve the space that the Historical Society is getting? So we shouldn't just say that the $10 million or whatever is going to be paid for by the taxpayers, because I don't think that it would fly. We need to be, as you say, reaching out to the community now, before you even think about putting it on, a ballot, to get, a sense of where the community is. When we were, the proposal for the police fire station a few years ago came up with, I forgot how many $1 million that was. That was soundly defeated. And that didn't meet what the town felt we needed. And now that unfortunately we don't have much of a police department, or it's probably fortunate that never passed. So these are just, our immediate thoughts from watching you tonight. And as I say, we are late to the game. But we feel something needs to be done, but before you go to the voters, we feel these things need to be taken under consideration. So thanks for listening.
I think that's what we've been talking about. And one of the, I think one of the fortunate things is different from the police station. This committee has put a lot of work into understanding these numbers. It's understanding why we have these numbers. We'll still go over the individual numbers quite a bit. But I think we can answer all of those questions. We've explored everything that you've suggested. For example, the new versus old, that was a big question for it. We spent a year on that. And what we learned was that if $10 million is too much, then the $15 million for a new building would probably be even more too much.
Yeah.
Which is what we learned, is that a new building would cost substantially more. Let alone if we tried to build it on this site, we'd have to either demolish this building or
We couldn't build another
and we-
building on this site because of zoning.
right. So, I agree with you, Fran, that we need to be able to answer all of those questions in a public meeting. I think we will get to a point where we have a specific recommendation that we're saying, after hearing what the public has said and what we have learned and what we've come up with, this is what we're putting forth as something for the voters to vote on. But short of doing that, I don't think anybody has enough information to be able to make a decision. And the easiest decision would be to say no. So I don't think we need to do a big dog and pony show for the select board. I think, I could do it, I'd welcome participation.
Yeah.
I don't really even think we need the architects at this stage. I think explaining what we have gone through, what our process is, what we have learned as briefly as possible, and what the amount of backup for this number that we have, and what our plan would be to go out and to present this to as many people as we can, and come back to the select board with a more definitive answer of what after taking the temperature of the town, what's the answer.
So what I would suggest is that I add the library to my FAQ and you give that
Yep.
to them.
That'd be great.
Because it
Yeah, I
did
think that
tell
would be
the
good.
I tried to tell the story.
I think
And
you're
it
right.
also is an example of the kind of information we might be using for the public.
Yeah, and keep it as a draft,
And
that would
they-
be fine.
Yeah, I'll leave it as a draft and they can, there might be a question that comes up that isn't on there that they want added and.
I think that's a good idea. And I think we could give them, these numbers.
Yep.
This is enough detail for them.
Should we give
We
them,
have more if somebody wants to see more later. We
Yeah.
can always say there is more information.
Yeah, I mean,
We have the whole itemized thing. If some select board member wanted to look at all the numbers.
that is the itemized, isn't it?
Huh?
What Jeff has there is there is no
yeah, this is it.
cover. I mean, there's like one sheet that has all the costs.
Well,
for one
there's
document. So
there's
we would
that.
give, well,
there's
so
that.
do we wanna-
And then there's
what are we including in the packet for the board? The
this,
first 2 pages
this.
or the whole thing?
No, I think that we could put this on the website. We could refer to it. I don't think they,
I don't know that I wanted, I'm concerned about putting that detailed cost estimator list on the
right.
website right now. I think that's where, because I
can
do
infer
think
that.
there may be things that we want to talk about from Andrew's like owner's list, the list of things where he said the owner purchase list down there at the
Yep,
bottom.
yep.
And we might want to be taking that $340,000 or some of it off. the table,
I think
you
it's
know?
fair for them to see it. I mean.
Well, yeah,
if
but
we-
I mean,
if we-
I think it's early to be giving them all those. There are some things on here that I could see taking off, because I agree with Dave that getting under 10 million would be really nice before we
I think
go out.
I think we could tell them that we will work to do that.
Yeah.
And I agree that if we give them too many numbers, they'll go, wait a minute, I could get,
Take
at
that
Home
line out.
Depot, I could get this for, you know. And,
Yeah.
and so, you
I mean,
know,
eventually, I think we should have, it is a public document and people,
Mhm.
it's more like if somebody asks for it, we could give it to them, like Mary
we gave
asked
it to
for
Mary, yeah.
and it's fine, but I don't know that we need, I know you guys have so many things in your packets usually that,
I can work with you, Josh, on what.
Yeah.
What to put in the packet.
Yeah, I just want to know exactly what pages of that you want in the packet,
I'll try.
kind of like.
so
now.
the revision 3 of
Because are we gonna keep our slot on September 5th?
We can.
Okay.
I think we can. I think it
So
actually
we'll
would
talk to
be,
the select board
I think
first.
well, you know, we still have a lot to do.
we do have a lot to do.
And, you know, I don't think we need to meet weekly anymore.
No,
No,
But, you know, bi-weekly might not be bad.
but I would,
It's an agenda item.
Yeah.
Your frequency of meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
do
would
we feel-
definitely reach out to John and Andrew and give them the night off, because I know they're planning to be there.
Yeah.
I think,
So,
and judging by our agenda is pretty jammed for Tuesday. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, no, this one, there's a lot of things that a lot of people are gonna want to talk a lot about. So I'll put this sort of like mid-pack if we can.
Yeah.
But I think not having the architects there would probably be.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
You know, and then we can bring them in as the select board wants, but, you know,
And if you can let me know what pages of, because there's 2 documents, or we just look at the cost estimator document that you want to include, or do you want to include the overview at all?
I think that. Right,
Just the cover page of that?
you know, that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just as a site plan, I'll ask Andrew if he's got an elevation. We got floor plans. I think the floor plans are not relevant. I think, you know, all the foundation details.
anyway, because
Like this is site plan.
one with Karen, with the Historical Society flipped in terms of position.
So we're talking site plan first page.
Yeah.
And nothing else from this. I can cut that out of the PDF pretty easily and
Yeah.
just grab that. And then.
I'll add the library thing and send you the FAQ tomorrow morning.
That would be awesome.
Karen has her hand up.
Lori.
And
Karen
Karen has
has
her
her
hand
hand
up
up.
too.
Karen?
And then
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
Two really quick things. I assume that whatever documents you send to the select board will be available as documents before the meeting for the public, right? The
Oh, yeah.
select board puts their document.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yep.
the other question I had that I'll just slip in now is that you all and we think of the town centers, including the library, but none of this 10 million, other than the site itself, is for maintenance of the library. Is that correct?
The ramps, I think it depends on whether you call that site plan or, you know.
There's no-
building
Well,
infrastructure.
yeah, I do.
There's no maintenance in any of this, but there is putting a back and forth and ramp to the library door. So instead of coming up the sidewalk from those 2 parking spaces on,
Essentially, you're correct. Karen.
there's nothing building.
No building in the.
no,
in
in the
library.
building
Yeah.
stuff, no, nothing in the building, just the parking lot access.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then I guess if we could just, what would you like on this? part? It's got a lot of information.
The thing, he
He's
sent it
looking
today.
At the cover page here.
No, he sent it today.
Oh, he sent a new thing today?
He sent a new thing today.
Draft
Okay,
three.
So it looks like that. It's
Draft
just this
Three
page,
of the high level cost estimates.
and I can forward that to you.
I'm sure I've got it, but I just didn't look at it today.
I think,
It's just one page.
do you think that's good?
I don't know what that is, if I don't have it. No.
No, that's probably not. So maybe,
no, it's
maybe
this
that.
chunk. I'll send this to Josh, or if you know what, Josh, just pick it up out of the minutes here. Out of the I'll just make you, I'll make you
What's
a
this?
document and send it to you. It's just the summary of the
Your FAQ?
big.
No, this
I'll
is the
send you
minutes from
FAQ
the
and I'll
last
send you
meeting.
the cost estimate
Okay.
thing that I put in the minutes, because Andrew said
That'd
it
be
was
useful.
fine. I took out the things he wanted me to take
Okay.
out.
Okay,
But then should I include this draft three?
Yeah.
One page
Yeah.
from Andrew? Okay, I'll
From
just
this,
double
I'll
check. I'm
just
pretty sure I
chunk it
got
right
that.
out of I can just take this right out of the minutes and send it to you.
But is that gonna be the same thing as he put here?
yeah, it's draft 3 of,
Because if it's the same, if it's a snippet from the minutes, that's basically the same numbers here. Let's just give him the spreadsheet, right?
it's a little different.
It's different,
So-
presented differently. This
So
was,
it's that, see, it's a delineation of that number. So she's got more detail on that number, and then these are all the soft costs that
It's just-
add up to that, and then,
it's just the 5 categories, and the site work, the building, the stair tower, the post office, and the general contracting breaking out. And then the fees and the contingency and the fees and stuff. I'll just send it to you.
so
It's the number that gets you to the 10,183 and 98.
But it's different than this breakdown here. Or more detail or.
It's just, it's more, but it's still not very long.
No,
so
it's
I'm-
only,
I'm pretty comfortable with what, what to say on Tuesday. I'm happy
Yeah.
for you to join me, or, watch the riveting television that we do every 2 weeks.
I'll look at the agenda and see if,
There's plenty of interesting things on the agenda.
All sorts of fun.
Lots
You
of
won't
fun.
be bored.
And I'm thinking that we should give ourselves a little bit of a pause here, and maybe not meet quite so often.
go back to the.
I was gonna say, if we go back to our
Are you
bi-weekly
comfortable with that?
schedule, yeah, I was gonna say, I think now
Yeah.
that we are pushed back a bit, the every week isn't really
Not
tenable for me, so.
So, so I would like that. Every other week would be, I still think we have lots to do.
Yeah,
And I'd like to try to keep it to an hour,
Mhm.
if we can. Does that
you wanna go
sound,
back to the 7 o'clock?
what do you think?
I mean, I like the 6:30 just because. I don't know.
I don't
I can
really
do
usually have a
An hour,
preference.
we get
It's
out
more
at
you-
7:30.
6:30 is tough for you for work though, right?
7 is fine, if 7's easier,
I prefer 7, but I'm flexible.
let's do 7.
Lori,
I can do 7.
7 is
Is
fine.
that, does that work for you, Josh?
Either one's fine with me.
7's good.
So back to our regular every other
Yeah,
week. 7
before
o'clock.
select board meetings,
Right,
the week before a select board
Right.
meeting,
Okay.
which is, so it would be we're on the right schedule right now.
Mhm.
Um.
Yep.
Okay,
it's only the 5-week month, but.
So
the blue moon months,
The
blue super moon
yeah.
tonight,
The super moon was pretty big last night.
and unfortunately it's raining like crazy.
just a note, so for the next meeting, then I may not be able to attend that, and then I actually have to have the select board agenda done that Thursday because I'm out of the office Friday and the next week.
I don't think we'll have
We
anything.
won't have any more updates for the
I don't
board.
think so.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure if there was some additional update, we would need to have that finalized early.
Not unless they ask for it,
Okay.
What I'll try to do is I'll try to keep the conversation brief. I'll try to answer some questions, but if they start diving into individual numbers, I'll try to discourage that.
Okay.
Jeff, maybe at the outset, you could tell them that I'm going to give you a brief presentation, and if you need details about the numbers, we can defer to a future time.
That sounds right.
Yeah,
And
That
that
sounds right.
way, you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about limiting it. It's just, I'm self-limiting. Here's what you get. We can talk about more
Right.
later.
That seems reasonable to me, Mary. That's a good suggestion. Thank you. Okay, so in that spirit,
Okay.
I actually didn't get a chance to read Lori's minutes, but I'm very confident that they're exclusive.
And read them carefully because he sent me corrections.
Do we feel comfortable, voting on the minute?
Yes, they were,
So why don't we do a motion and do that officially? So do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
so moved.
One second. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye?
All right,
Okay. And do we have a summary of, we've named a few things for our next agenda or for a future agenda?
One thing I think that would be useful for our next meeting is to really think about how do we want to conduct the information sessions or the listening sessions? Like, I'd be interested in getting Karen or Fran or Mary's ideas about like, what is the best format? Like, do we invite people to these meetings? We don't seem to draw a big crowd. So like, do we have, like, we had this special town meeting in the library community room. Should we
Yeah.
have a Saturday afternoon
gum.
meeting like that? Free gum.
Ice cream, I
Raffle,
thought
door
ice cream.
prizes, door prizes, you know?
I mean, we have a date with Karen and Martha.
Yeah. And so do we-
17th for
we-
the Historical Society and the
Martha.
Senior Center.
Yeah.
Because, and they were willing to invite their members.
So we have one more meeting before that, right?
They have that.
But we're gonna need more
held.
than one
Right,
session
but it
probably. So
could-
what would be effective
if we
ways
knew
to?
what we were
Let's make that as an agenda item. So,
Okay.
how do we do this?
That for the listening sessions or whatever. And the.
We might do it in
presentation.
more than one way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Because
Well,
I think we
like,
get different,
It
we may want
depends
to
on your
target different
audience.
populations, in different settings.
Yeah, I
When
mean, yeah.
they went out for folks looking to come to the ARPA, the American Recovery
Mhm.
Free Money baloney idea. They went specifically to the mobile home park. Jay, I think, had a meeting there, or at least made some contact with folks down there because you want to be sure to include all communities.
Mhm.
And sometimes going to where the folks are is not a bad idea. I don't know that they have a community meeting space, but at least saying, listen, your input is just as important as anyone else's. We'd like you to we'd like your valuable opinions
Right.
presented and come to meet with us at thus and such, or somehow, but specifically target them.
Yep.
Because they might have been overlooked in the past.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah.
like that idea, actually.
Groups, method and.
And what? So in
Content.
between now and then, what I'll offer to do is talk to Andrew and John about, what would look pretty.
But yeah,
What
we
would
had
be,
this conversation. They were gonna come up with an elevation.
I'll talk to them about that. So,
Pictures
so
they
I'll bring that.
They might also be able to let you know what they've used for outreach for folks in the past. Say, what
Yeah,
groups have you, how have you reached out?
Yeah.
How have you gotten what you
Yeah.
wanted done, presented and approved? And they might have some valuable information to give you immediately.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah,
Do you
I'll-
have time?
yeah,
If I would be
yeah.
happy to do it if you don't.
No, I'll volunteer
Okay.
to do that. I need to update them on this.
Okay, thank you. I have to go water the mums. Yes, I have to
Thanks,
water
Mary.
the mums before.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey,
There's a lot of green on there. See y'all. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, Mary.
yeah, okay.
You know,
Anything else that we need on our agenda for next time?
I don't know about agenda or not, but something that Karen said, asking about the library.
Yes,
I think,
that's why I need to add a library on the FAQ,
yeah,
that it's only
But
the approach to the library that's being altered. It's
so
not
I
the library building.
think that what may have been underlying that, maybe I'm misreading her, but and just projecting my own view is that if we were to be taking care of both buildings, this whole campus, so to speak, for 10 million, that's one thing, right?
Oh,
And so, and I know we're not, and I know
Yeah, yeah.
there's good reasons why
Yeah.
not, but I think we also need to get clear in our head, and it's not, I have to admit, it's not clear in my head what's left to be done at the library, at what cost. And how we're gonna tackle that, right?
Yeah.
And somebody may ask that, or
yep. Yes, because.
So if we did an $11 million project that included both buildings, that might fly
might be
better.
more palpable.
It's worth thinking about.
Well, yeah. I mean, we were waiting to see about those grants. but hoping that,
The challenge with the, even the USDA grants is if we get back into the historic preservation stuff, then some of this gets
Yeah.
changed.
There's a lot, there's a lot of, strong, good feelings towards a library.
You're right.
Yeah,
There always is, and there is in this
Yeah.
town, you know?
I mean, I can tell you what's left from what Alex,
Yeah.
you know, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And
I
they're
wouldn't
doing,
mind, I wouldn't mind
and they're
having
doing,
my memory refreshed on
and
that
they're
part.
doing the analysis of the roof slate, so
Yeah.
could be.
Could be more.
that
More than we even started.
Don't ask, don't ask.
We approved a project, didn't we approve spending some ARPA money on the library?
That was,
I think
was
we
it
did.
to match the Bruin grant?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you approve that, then I resubmitted it without a match, just asking for 100,000, 250,000. And I never heard anything.
So we have, so
I
we don't know yet on the Bruin grant?
We do,
We
didn't get it.
do, we didn't get
We-
it.
yeah, okay. So then we should probably relook at that ARPA money too, like,
Well,
what are we gonna do with that ARPA money?
I put in,
Put in another grant?
I put in a request
Oh, that's
not
fine.
as a match, and I never heard anything. I sent it to Jay and Jeff, and I didn't hear anything back, so I assumed that you had.
I'd have to look back at the motion and whether or not it included as
Your
match,
motion did not
included as a match. So we'd have to look at
So we
that.
can use that money for the library without a match, without being a match? Is that-
No,
I-
your motion, original request as a Broom grant match.
Yep.
Your motion was only to match it.
Right.
It was not to give us any more money.
Okay.
So when I found out that, I resubmitted a request to ARPA, to Jeff and Jay,
I don't think we got to that.
and it was for 250,000
No,
For
I
the
don't think.
library.
we
Use it as a standalone.
can do that.
to use to knock off the painting and the wood
Okay.
repair. On
Yeah.
the, on the.
We
which
did-
is
No,
the-
we did not deal with that,
items on
yeah.
the list.
Without, yeah, so
Library
that
update
just.
next.
stand- yeah, so
Library
we-
update
we
on
do
the
need to
next
make-
agenda.
I'll get
We
with
should
you.
update that to make sure that, because if we're gonna do that, we should start bidding those projects again and make it
Yeah.
happen, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Alright.
that's enough, that's, you know, that's a big RFP.
Oh, yeah.
If we had the money for that,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay,
are
Um,
we done?
So if all of this goes down, so you know, the other, we've allocated about half the ARPA money, which leaves
Yeah.
about $600,000 or $700,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then there's recreation, whatever that might be. It's a lot of discussion about recreation.
Yeah,
We're forming a new committee to look at parks. They're supposed to come back to the select board by
yeah.
spring with what they would do. I think that's an ambitious schedule. And then we would have a proposal as well. If all of that goes down, we still have $700,000 to figure out how to spend.
Well, the library can use more.
I could use an infinite amount of money.
yeah,
But, yeah, I mean, yeah,
Okay,
you know,
I think,
whatever.
I think
Are we
we're,
done?
are we done? Are we adjourned?
I move to adjourn.
Okay, so moved. All those in favor, aye.